All right, so I am on another driveway repair and improvement here. This is an entrance here with an easement, so the guy that owns the property is off this way and the driveway I'm repairing is here. So ultimately this guy's property starts around here, so we're just going to be messing with what's down here. But the main issue, like with most of these driveways, is that there's a lot of water getting on it and it's not getting off of it. So you can see it channels out down the center. And then unfortunately with this gentleman's property, the low point is like right in front of his garage because the house was built so low. We're going to do a couple different things here to hopefully alleviate water getting on top of the driveway and then keeping water off the sides. So the main goal will be to mound up this portion here where it dips off down into the top of his driveway and allow water to follow down into this pit right here, and then any other water to hopefully run off this side. Then once it makes it over here, just because of the easements and we can't really mess with putting culverts or changing up there, we're going to clean this up and put a culvert going underneath to this side over here, which will allow for water to drain across that way instead of piling up this way. And coming down the driveway, I mean, this whole base is really packed in and everything. Biggest challenge will be to ensure that water doesn't make it and sit in the end down here, and also not go in his garage. So down here is where all the water pools, and the goal will be to lift this area, also create a pathway underneath his barn there, and then hopefully get enough of a trench that way to allow water to make it off and down into the woods. And I have the 26 on the job, the 50 is on another job, and my skid steer is on another job too, so I'll be doing the prep work with this, which is what I do anyway because I want to clean up around the edges, make some swales, and then in the following days I'll get some material delivered, spread that out, probably with this machine first, just breaking down the piles, then I'll swing and swap this machine out with the skid steer to do the final grading. This machine has been sitting outside my backyard for so long, it's just built up all this dirt and mold and everything, and I gotta clean it. Alright, so I'm going to start down by the house, clean up by the garage and the little pathway off to the left here to get this area kind of situated. right, that cleans up around the garage. The wall there, I took all of the extra gravel material and spread that in this area, and then any of the excess sod and you know, more organic material I put over here, and then tracked over it to kind of pack it in some. After talking with the homeowner, I think we're just going to hold off on putting any kind of culvert set up down here, because there really just isn't the drop for it. And then on top of that, between the trees, the slope off behind the trees, and all the grass and a little bit of a swale in here, there shouldn't be too much water coming down here once we correct the center of the driveway. As well as on this side, there isn't as much slope as I had originally thought coming off the yard into the driveway. So I think once we correct that top portion, lift the driveway, and then everything settles out, it's really only whatever ends up on the surface of this driveway that has to get off. So just make sure that we keep our pitch going this way, and because of that, I'm going to clean up and expand this little hand dug swale that you had here to let any water that is collected on the driveway roll off through here. Alright, that provides a little escape path down into the woods from the driveway. The only spot we can get out low enough. Everything else is kind of caving down into the driveway, so it makes it tough. Alright, I'm going to bring the excavator up and put the culvert in the top. First thing I'm going to do is clean out this little pit here, get that sorted out, and then make my trench going across. Well, looks like there was a culvert here. I didn't see this before, and it wasn't mentioned to me. I wonder if it comes out over here, or I'm planning to take it to the other end. It must. So this pipe basically just makes it to the, oh, it makes it past where the original driveway is, because the original driveway is about through the center of the excavator there. So this goes over by a couple feet. But since the mouth of the driveway kind of goes a little wide, that's, you know, kind of on the edge here. So I think I'm gonna clean up this area a little bit more. It's tough because there's a ledge or boulder right there. But just put another couple feet on this pipe to get it out around this area here, so that there's a little bit more coverage, no excessive hole right off the side of the driveway. All right, so that gets that whole little basin cleaned up, directed right down to the new culvert. It looks like the other culvert was an 8-inch. I couldn't find the other end over there. So my guess is it may have gotten broken somewhere in the middle of the driveway at some point. Or it, you know, took a turn and went that way or something. I'm not sure. But I didn't feel like digging the whole thing up and making more of a mess, so I just dug beside it. Worked out fine because I was able to get the opening right here. Of course, this whole area is a little bermed up right now. It's going to settle at some point. And also on top of that, I'm going to be creating a whole berm here anyway, lifting this whole area with like a whole truckload of base material, just because we're trying to create a water berm to bring water here rather than down the center of the driveway. And over here, I kind of made it in between these two trees, got some of the roots, but this was really the only spot I could have it exit. It's exiting pretty much at ground level with some pitch going back towards me. I just took some of the spare rocks that I found while digging and tossed them over the top of the thing. I mean, not the best looking rocks, but, well, made it look a little bit nicer. So that gets everything pretty much prepared, and now I'll just be back with the skid steer and probably about 4 or 5 loads of base material to spread out over this whole thing, lift it up and grade it out. All right, I'm back a few days later. We've had some rain in between, and of course, because this driveway is still, I can't fix any of this, you know, you get runoff down into here. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to collect some of the extra small rocks to basically kind of create a little wrap pad down here to keep this from letting too much sediment collect near the bottom. Unfortunately, this thing's going to collect sediment no matter what, because it's coming from a road that is all sediment. So no matter what I do down here, this will eventually fill up and will need to be maintained regardless of what I put in here. And if I figured if I line this whole thing with stone, it'll work well for a while, but since it has so much sediment coming in from this road, it'll just completely clog this, and then it'll be a real pain to clean out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the smaller rocks that I dug out and just place them around the mouth of the pipe here, so that it'll help keep it bermed off of the pipe, and then, you know, that can be easily shoveled or raked. I brought some grass seed as well, so hopefully, you know, maybe some grass will grow along the edges here and help reduce some extra sediment flowing in. But yeah, I mean, like I've said before in these videos, it's a maintenance nightmare when you don't have a solid surface, so it's something you got to sign up for. That'll help keep the front of this a little bit cleaner, and then as material builds up down here, it can be kind of dredged out and reappropriated elsewhere. And looks like down here, again, you can see a lot of the water runs straight down these tracks. Looks like we basically just have a low spot right in front of us. So originally my plan was to swap the excavator out for the skid steer, because I was going to bring this up to the other site and take the skid steer off that one, use it here, and then bring it back. But since this is a pretty, you know, narrow driveway, and I know once we start dumping material, it's going to be kind of hard to spread it with just the skid steer alone, not having any side space or anything to really get the grades kind of worked out, as well as cleaning up spilled material. I'm going to use the excavator to do all the initial pile breakdowns and spreading, and then once I get through that and do the rough grading with this, if I need to go grab the skid steer because I need to just tune up the grade a little bit better, I'll do that. But I might be able to get away with just using the excavator, and then of course running the compactor over all of it. It'll definitely be slower spreading with this, but a little bit more controlled, and I can do cleanup edges and work the crown a little bit better. I don't have the tilt bucket on it, unfortunately, but since it's a smaller excavator, I can kind of get the angles I want a little bit easier than, say, if it was the 50. right, spreading that out with just the excavator worked out pretty well. It's definitely nice to have the excavator for these driveway jobs, especially for these tighter width driveways, because I can go up either side of it, pull in the edges that overflow, and then just pack them in, grade them out, and then you get a pretty decent crown as well as clean edges. The big thing, as I mentioned before, is this driveway entrance accepts all the water off the street, and you can really see how it's channeled out down this center path. And that center path was making it all the way straight down through his driveway. It's hard to tell on camera, but I basically cut a little channel here rolling off the other driveway and lifted his own driveway about another 6 to 7 inches. So this whole surface up here, much higher than over here. So any water coming down off the street is going to be bermed and sent this way. You know, unfortunately, over time, it will channel this out, but there really isn't much you can do about that because they do plow this in the winter. And putting there's no way you can put a culvert for any of this to catch anything in the center of the driveway. You'd really have to, like I told him the first time I was here, we'd really have to adjust the entire entryway to ensure that water wasn't getting on this part first, because there's no way to catch it once it's in the center. So this whole lift will be somewhat impervious to accepting any water onto it, as well as being somewhat abusable for plows, because as the whole driveway is lifted, you know, the plows hitting it, you know, they'll smooth out that bump, but it'll still always be higher. And then, as you know, with anything else, it's an item that requires maintenance over time. Alright, a little bit tight under that overhang, but it was actually nice that I had the 26 here because I could fit right underneath the overhang as well as reach underneath the kayaks. Definitely couldn't get that angle with the skid steer, so that was nice. Put down a total of 4.5 loads of 3/4 inch minus. This stuff binds up really nice. It gets real solid. I've got this thing almost pitched all the way that way, a little bit low in the center, so I'm going to go over it a couple more times and get the angles on it. There was a wet spot right here where all the water was sitting from yesterday's rain. This will bind up really good. It only really mushed out when the huge truck was going over it. As it gets sun on it and as we keep rain off of it, it's definitely going to bind up just like everything else, because you can see up here pretty much where I just put down all the material and have been tracking over it. All of this is really tight now, so it'll just be a matter of me going up and down it a few more times with the back drag to sort out some of the lumps and bumps, and then just hit it with the compactor and it'll be good to go. Alright, so it's pretty hard to tell visually. You can see it a little bit, but basically over by where the zip level is about the same height across here, and then it tapers off with like maybe a little bit of a pocket over there. So I'm going to take the excavator, do a couple more passes out towards where the zip level is to create a better channel this way. And also, really, I think I want to try to avoid areas where water would be able to puddle is the big thing. All right, so that should work out pretty good. That'll take any water that's captured on top of the driveway that makes it down to this end, and feed it right on over to that swale that I made. That should be, you know, about an inch per 5 foot drop in there. All right, so now that's all raked out, I suppose it's time to run the compactor. Just went through and raked up the sides from any extra rocks that spilled over, then threw some grass seed on the disturbed areas. All of this was kind of like a mixture of silt, the original road, sod, everything else. But since it was already exposed and roughed up, I figured throwing some grass seed on it wouldn't hurt, just to get something in there so it's not just muck. Same thing over here, just on the other side of the swale. And then compacting this all went pretty well. It certainly took a while. Like I said in the last video, doing these driveway jobs is pretty few and far between. Most of the work I'm usually doing is hardscaping, not always doing aggregate driveways. A lot of people around here usually have asphalt driveways, so it's harder to justify getting a roller for the skid steer since they are very expensive. But if I keep getting these, it'll be a much more serious purchase, or I'll largely consider renting one out more often. It's just it's just tough with my scheduling to do rentals. So the only spot here that's really wet, unfortunately, because I was just trying to get these piles moved as the trucks were coming, because they were coming about 20 minutes faster than I had originally expected. This spot here, which was holding all the water before I had moved the material down over it, unfortunately all that water soaked right up into the material, even though I was trying to shove it this way. It just sat too long. And then of course vibratory compacting it causes it to all wick that moisture up. So this section right here is still pretty moist, but everything else is extremely hard. So once this gets some time to dry, and especially since it's so much higher now when crowned, it won't be getting water coming down from the street that sits here. The only water that will really ever make it here is what falls on top of it. This should dry out over time. Like I had mentioned before, we have a pitch all going that way. There may be a few pockets here and there, but very hard to tell until rainfall. And fortunately for me, we're actually supposed to get a bunch of rain tomorrow night and the day after, so I can come back and take a look at this while we're getting rain to check that everything's working, just like in the last video, and touch up any areas that may be having problems. My biggest concern, of course, is up here, making sure that water doesn't get down onto the driveway. All right, so just have to wait another day or two to come back and take a look while it's raining. All right, I'm back here like 2 days later, and we're getting some off and on rain, but it's definitely enough that you can see that we're getting some flow off the road. And let's see how it looks down here. So as we can see, this is all huddled up, running down the driveway here. And looking good so far. We got a lot of water puddling right there where I expected it to, and running its way down to this culvert. You can see all of this water coming in from that side of the driveway, as well as from the street. So we are getting some puddling down here. My main concern with removing all those rocks is that we're going to get too much sediment flow into the pipe, but you can try shifting some of them around. So like I told the homeowner, there will largely be a lot of sediment building up down here like it was before, and it'll have to be managed because there's no way to stop it from coming in, aside from maybe putting up some silt sock and some organics that would help filter before it got down here. But even still, it's just going to be a sediment pool that you'll have to take out somewhere. So as this fills up, it'll eventually make it into the pipe over the rocks, but that'll help keep a lot of that sediment from going right into the pipe, and be able to just clean it out. So we can see the water exiting over here, going off this way. So the only water that we're getting flowing on the driveway, which will hopefully make it off each side, is of course where the cars are going to drive. They're going to keep letting out their own little ruts where the tires are going. But looking good so far. There's not too much looking good so far. There's not really a lot of puddling. Of course, right here is where it was really soaked the other day. Looks like right here we got a little bit of puddling that's flowing off to the left. Ideally, I'd like it to be going to that swale, which is working pretty good for everything else. So we can see that the majority of this is making it down this swale over here, which is good. Because this puddle right here was going to happen no matter what, but ideally I'd like the material or the water in here to be making it over to there. And over here looks good, which I'm glad there's no water going back into the house or anything like that. It's all making it down over to where I'm standing. It's really just this little spot here that ideally I'd like to be making it over here, so maybe I'll just go grab the machine and just channel this a little bit more this way to get the water flowing to where I'm standing. Since everything's pretty wet and sloppy, can't really grade it too well, but pretty much every bit of water in there is maybe like 1/4 of an inch at most. You know, with down here there's such minimal pitch that it's really hard to read the exact way water is going to flow on it. And of course there's going to be small puddles here and there because it's just an aggregate style driveway, and you know, come the first winter, as soon as it gets plowed, it's going to be a lot more potholes and everything else. Raked out most all of the areas that looked like they were giving some trouble. So now it's all kind of a little bit loose, but it's so wet I couldn't compact it if I wanted to. So I'm going to give this probably, I don't know, a day or so to dry out. You know, swing back here after that and then recompact this whole area and touch it up a bit more. But I think that should get a lot of the water from falling off into this corner, because really all the water over here is from the driveway bleeding it off to the left. And then the only real water that came down that from the driveway itself, upper portion is kind of like in this little area right here. So if we can keep that water from making it to the left and have it go right off down there, it'll be a lot better than it currently looks. So I just have to wait for it to dry so that I can actually compact it again. All right, I'm back a few days after that last rain, and my goal is really just to regrade this section here. So this is more bermed up over here, maybe pull some of that material down, and yeah, then just recompact this area. So everything else looked pretty good. Over here looks like maybe a little bit of a low spot where his car was parked. So I might be able to, looks like this spot might be a little low over here. So I might be able to fix that up a little bit, but let's start by pulling some of that material back this way so it keeps the water flowing out into the soils rather than piling up on the driveway here, and then we'll go ahead and regrade out this. I mentioned it before when I was talking about the culverts, but there really is no pitch from this side to the other side. And the client's electrical to his house and his barn here goes right across where that swale is dug. So I really can't dig down too far to get a pipe in. And actually where it drains out over on that side is pretty much at this height where I'm sitting right now. So there's really nowhere for the water to go, unfortunately, especially if I put in like even a 6-inch piece of PVC would still be, you know, questionable if I'd even get pitch out of it. And then I'd be exposing his electrical run. So we're really kind of working with what we got here with almost no grade, which is why almost all the water on here was just kind of sitting and slowly rolling off, which is honestly better than it running fast because it'll take less of the material out with it as it goes and drains. So I think no matter what we do here, there will always be some puddle that'll occur off the sides of the driveway. But the main point is that if there is puddling, it drains into the soil, which isn't getting driven on. And two, if it is enough water there, it'll make it onto the driveway and bleed over the top like the rest of it has to already. All right, that gets that looking pretty good now. So basically, to summarize, we were getting water pitching out that corner right there from the driveway over here, which we didn't want. We want all this going that way. So I went back through here, regraded it out, checked it with the zip level. We're getting about, you know, an inch per 5 to 8 feet, depending on the area, because it's really shallow. Filled in a little bit over there where it was low, recompacted all of it so it's nice and tight, and now hopefully all of the water will be making it that way. And of course, because it's an aggregate driveway, there'll be pooling no matter what you do, because as soon as you drive cars on it, you put pressure points, you turn wheels, and if the way water goes, you're always going to get some amount of disturbance. But as I discussed with the client, he is totally expecting it to not be perfect, and the trials and tribulations of having an aggregate driveway he's well aware of. It's mainly that he wants a drivable surface that is not a complete muck pit right where he's parking his car, and this certainly will be perfectly fine for that. And as with everything, it will require some maintenance, especially after a season of plowing, but I like to try and get it as good as I can before I leave it. I think we've done that here with what we have. And I guess we'll look at the culvert again. You know, there's some silt down there. It's not actually too bad, but as I discussed when it was raining, there really isn't a good option up here because of the amount of erosion coming from both the entrance of the driveway, this side driveway, and this other driveway. It's all loose aggregate, so you'll get a bunch of silt, sand, and everything else building up. And this end of the culvert looking pretty good. You can see the water was making it out down this way. And again, over here, pretty much no pitch. You get maybe like an inch every 10 foot. So it's just a tough spot, but I think we got it to work. All right, so that'll finish this one out. We got to do the whole driveway install, got to see it during some rain, which was good because we got to see a minor failure point, which we then got to come back and fix. And now everything looks pretty good, pretty pitched correctly. Ultimately, I think this is the best intermediary solution until the entire driveway is fixed up. So the client's happy with it, I'm happy with it, and of course, if there's any outstanding problems that show up after some more crazy rainfalls, I'll certainly come back out and fix them.